Welcome back to Better Odds Sports Betting. I'm your host, Kyle Hunter. I'm joined here with my co-host, Kiev O'Neill. Also joining us, common guest here and one of our friends, John Ryan from Wager Talk Sports Memo. I'll start with John. John, how you doing today?
Hey, I'm doing great. Couldn't be any better being on this show, and I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, it's nice to get the band back together here.
Yes, it is.
We haven't done as much here since basketball ended, but getting some of these shows going again, or since college basketball ended. I realize NBA is going on, but college basketball is my favorite. I think you can tell that. But NBA still doing pretty well in that, and I know John's been running good in that. We got baseball going full swing. Didn't mean to do that pun there, but also college football. We got a little bit of college football to talk, right, Kiev? So, Kiev, how you doing today?
I'm great. Thank you, Kyle. John, welcome back. Great to
Thanks
see you
again. Yeah.
Yeah, in college football, there's some changes, and it's in the media, and I just wanted to kind of mention that. And I did mention it on the podcast, the Odds Breakers, if you haven't got a chance to listen to that. But, they're voting on a 12-team playoff system, right? That's what we hear. They're voting on a playoff system, but the 12 team seems to be the thing ruling. My opinion of the whole situation has always been we should expand the playoffs in college. Always thought that. There's a lot of different reasons for that. You can call it giving kids hope. You can call it there's too many recruits going to one school that are top, all of that. But at the same time, you want a lot more parity in the sport. I think if this COVID year taught us anything or taught the NCAA anything, a star can sit out and get in the top round. Caleb Farley sat out, Jamar Chase, there's a lot of guys that sat out and were still first round draft picks. A couple guys from Miami, their defensive ends, and now college football is kind of like scratching their head a little bit. Be like, we might be in a little trouble here, especially from a rating standpoint. And you don't want the NFL to pop out another league, possibly. Maybe there's so much money there. The NBA realized that, made G League and things like that. If anything, college needs to stop this. They're the minor league system going in, and they need better games, more competition. So the reason it's going to be more competitive, and people might say, well, I don't want to see BYU getting crushed by Ohio State. I don't want to see Coastal Carolina get crushed by Alabama and things like that. People might say that, but at the same time, when kids are coming in to get recruited, right, there's three things that they care about most. The three things are, one, going to the NFL. That's number one. Number two is winning a national championship. And number three is staying kind of close to home, playing in front of your parents. Your parents can drive there. They don't have to fly there. They can go to every single game. Your friends and family can go there, right? That's an important thing. So a kid in Miami, considering the Hurricanes or Alabama as a five-star recruit, right now he's going to Alabama because those, the third thing's they're not going to happen. You're going to sacrifice the family for the championship and get into the NFL, right? You're going to sacrifice that. But now if you can have all three, because, hey, I can stay in Miami here and I could be getting the playoffs and at least have a shot here, maybe that's going to make me stay as a five-star recruit. That's what I like about it. What I don't like expanded playoffs is if they go too far. Because what I love about college football is the regular season is so important to me. I love how these teams will play their asses off every game. They know how important it is, especially if they're competing to get into the playoffs. And if you dilute it like the NBA has done, like other leagues have done, with too many playoff teams, they start resting guys. They start not caring, especially if they're not going to get a bye. I kind of like the bye because of that. But at the same time, I'd also be okay with 8 playoff teams. I think the top 4 would deserve it. But there's the balance of what I'm looking for here. And, of course, if you're not an Ohio State fan, Alabama fan, or maybe if you are even, you want to see more chances and parity to come in. You want your school that you went to school have a shot to go in. How exciting would that be? I think it would help college sports, and I think these some of the other things that they're doing, letting athletes use their likeness and stuff is also fair as well.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of those points. And thanks to Glenn Middleton for checking in again. Glenn's a loyal viewer. I appreciate you being on here again. Hope everything's going well there. To be honest with you, I am a Buckeyes fan. Obviously, I don't think that's too hard to figure out for anybody here. But I do like an expanded playoff because I like seeing more teams get a chance. I'm not one of those guys who wants to say, let's exclude the little guy. I want the little guy to have a chance. I like the underdog. I know that it comes at the expense that it could hurt an Ohio State, it could hurt a Clemson, it could hurt an Alabama. But, everybody always likes to talk about, think back this last year, guys, when it was Coastal Carolina, teams like that. It'd be nice to see a team like that play against a big name team. Look, I think we know what would probably happen, but still, it's a really good chance for those players. Even if they lose that game, if they show well in that game, really good experience for them. It helps their university a lot. I agree with you about not making it too big. We don't want this to become a watered down regular season. I do agree that the NBA has done that. The NBA regular season is kind of tough, as a fan. NBA playoffs are a lot more exciting than the NBA regular season, certainly. I think as far as the 12 team thing, Kiev, did I read this right? I think that Notre Dame would not be eligible for a bye. They would be a team that would have to play the first game because they're not in a conference. I believe that's true. The 1 through 4 teams normally
if they award the top seeds only conference champions, but I actually disagree with that. I think it should go by real rankings, and I'm not a big fan of the AP poll. Maybe they can get better with power rankings. I mean, Sagarin does a great job. Team rankings, ESPN's FPI is even better than the AP poll. So if they went by something like that, then it would be better to me. I think just punishing Notre Dame because they're not in the conference is a little silly. At the same time, I always wanted Notre Dame personally to join a conference. I guess I always wanted them in the Big Ten for a reason. But, Notre Dame's doing their thing. They get a lot of national recognition. There's other schools that just aren't going to be in conferences. So just to have a rule for conferences kind of just almost puts a little bit too much love and shade towards the conference because that even makes more conference bias. In my opinion, I think they should just go top 4.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that, I don't consider myself a big Notre Dame fan, but I think that could be a slight to Notre Dame that they don't necessarily deserve because Notre Dame does play a pretty good schedule a lot of the time, too. It's not like they're just playing a bunch of really lowly ranked teams. So, John, what are your thoughts on that?
Their schedule's harder than Clemson this year, too.
yeah, there you go.
Well, I mean, speaking of Notre Dame and the rest of the teams you've mentioned, on the surface, it looks like there's going to be 5 teams of those 12 already kind of slotted in there with Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State, Oklahoma, Georgia. But then if you look at the team futures, it jumps really high. Like Georgia is the 5th team of that group that I stated at plus 700. Then the next team in line is plus 2,800 in LSU and Texas A&M. I've never seen a gap like that in any college football season ever. And the market is telling us that those 5 teams the elite teams have actually widened the gap over the rest of the field. So even like a team, with all due respect, Kiev, Notre Dame is 80-1 to win the national championship. I mean, it seems like you'd have to throw pizza money on that. But then when you think about going up against an Alabama, probably, how is the 12 going to run? Are there any buys?
Yeah. The first 4 teams, would get a bye, and you earn that through the regular season. That's why I like that. If they had 8 teams, they couldn't have a bye. Then you could get that screw up. Alabama or Ohio State has a bad game. Their quarterback gets injured, and they lose to a Wisconsin, a Coastal Carolina, or anybody that might not be deserving. And I'm shading my Badgers a little, but it's important to have that bye out. I think just for that, that's how it would be slotted. But, there's going to be conference champions that, don't always deserve it. You're going to have, for example, a Pac-12. Maybe the Pac-12 South just ekes in there because the Pac-12 South sucked and they just happened to beat, Oregon, right? That could always happen. And so just having straight rules I can see both sides of it. But as long as you get more schools in there is kind of what I'm looking for.
Yeah, and I was going to say one other thing. 5 of the top 9 in the futures odds are from the SEC. And we all know that that's actually a good thing for those teams like a Southern Cal or even a Wisconsin or a Cincinnati, to mention them in the other conferences, because the SEC is going to beat each other up, and it's unlikely that anybody, maybe with the exception of Alabama, are going to come through undefeated. It's very likely any given year in the SEC, a 2-loss team wins the conference. So then that's going to really make it tough on the team that doesn't make it to the SEC final, has 2 losses against a Notre Dame team that has 1 loss. And it's not a conference champion. It's still going to be like the same problem, I think, for the committee to determine who the 12 are. But
the conference bias thing is always going to be there.
Yep.
And that's a problem that's going to be there for 2 teams. It's going to be there if you had 1 team like they used to, right? And so this is the same problem over and over, but it's the same old argument. It doesn't matter. At least you're giving more colleges chances. And it's, yes, let's say you're the 13th team coming in. You go undefeated. Go undefeated. There you go.
Yep.
You have control of your own destiny throughout the regular season, and that's what it's all about to get to the playoffs, in my opinion. So.
Nice, yeah.
I'm excited to see what happens. It probably won't be until 2023, 2024, but maybe it will spread out some of the recruiting. Maybe it will put a little bit more parity and give some more chances to other schools and keep the ratings up. Does the West Coast care about the playoffs? Anything west of the Mississippi River? Not since Texas hasn't made it, right? So
that's right.
It's been a while.
It has been a while. I think it will be interesting. It sounds like it's going to happen. It's just a matter of time. So we'll follow up on that some more. But let's get into some of the games that are going on here right now. And I do want to say, Luke, giving some love to Kiev for the hat. I agree. I like the hat game there from Kiev. We like those unique hats that you're not just going to find everywhere. So Nice one there. I'll start with a baseball game that I like here for today. I'm going to start out here with Houston and Minnesota. I see that there's been a pitching change in this game. So a bet that I was going to make, actually, I'm going to go ahead and let somebody else go first because there was just a pitching change in this game. Shoemaker was slated to go for Minnesota here. I've consistently faded Shoemaker. He's been a total gas can here of late. I don't think that Shoemaker can fix his issues here quickly. Now, they switched out pitchers. I was going to take the team total over for Houston. I will make a point here real quickly and say that I still like Houston as a team here going forward. I think Houston is a team that you might want to buy some futures on. This is a team that I don't particularly want to root for this team. You know, we all know that they were bashing the trash cans and, cheating in that way. Houston's still really good without that. This is a really good team that has a lot of very good hitters, a deep lineup. They can add a bullpen arm. I think Houston is a dangerous team. I think that Houston has a good chance to end up winning their division. So Houston team I'd like to buy low on when it comes to the divisional numbers. I'll throw out one more here real quick. Pittsburgh and Milwaukee. The line's gone up here a bit. Woodruff from Milwaukee is an underrated pitcher. I think this guy is a top 10 pitcher in Major League Baseball right now, and he's not priced that way a lot of times. Now, the price has gone up, so there is a line move on this one. Personally, I like Milwaukee minus 1.5 here, some in this game. DeYoung for Pittsburgh has not proven that he can do much of anything. Milwaukee, not a big hitting team, so I could understand a lean toward the under in a game like this too. But I worry that Milwaukee could hit DeYoung a little bit here because he has no history of success in the big leagues. If you look at Woodruff's numbers, they're consistently very good. It's not Jacob deGrom, who we're going to be talking about here in a minute, but it's really impressive. I don't think he's rated as highly as he should be. So since I can't give out Houston, like I was going to fade Shoemaker, I'll say Milwaukee minus 1.5, a play I like here. A little bit juicier than I normally would want to take, but I don't love today's baseball card, to be honest with you. So we'll go with that. Kiev, was there a certain game that you were eyeing today?
Yeah, betting baseball is when it's a money line sport. I think you're only doing half your job if you're just betting favorites. So I'm going to throw out a dog there that I think has a shot, and I like the price. It's all price dependent here. And there's a modeling crew and everything that hits the lines right away first. And you don't have to be one of those to see the line is a little bit off here. This is lefty versus lefty. We have Baltimore versus the Tampa Bay Rays here. Keegan Aiken's going to be pitching for the Orioles, and he doesn't have a ton of experience. But for the 20 innings that he did pitch this year, he's doing pretty well, 3.25 FIP. And if you look last year, he pitched about 25 innings, and it was about the same FIP, pretty low. Ryan Yarbrough's pitching for the Rays, and he's 4.29 FIP, and not that great. I mean, the Rays cover up some of his deficiencies. They're a pretty good hitting team, but Baltimore's been really sneaky this year, and I think they're better than their 22-39 record. I'm not saying they're necessarily a 500 team, but they are 16th in WRC plus at weighted runs created. That is adjusted to ballparks. And their bullpen ranks 19th in FIP. Not terrible, kind of like towards the middle. They've been pretty good lately. Now, the Rays are better. They're 11th in WRC plus and 7th in bullpen. But here's the thing I like. You have a little upside with the pitcher, with obviously Aiken here against Yarbrough, in my opinion. I think that's upside. And you also have upside because Baltimore has quietly been number 2 against left-handed batters in WRC plus. I mean, it goes White Sox, then Houston. I think Houston might have actually just jumped the Sox, but those are the top 3 against lefties. So that's where I like the value on Baltimore as a big plus dog, is the starting pitcher here and the actual against lefties, the FIP, the WRC plus. That's important. And Baltimore, not a great team to bet on. Obviously, this year they only have 22 wins, but this is where you got to pick your spot. Another big favorite, and I wouldn't even call this big favorite, that I did take was Jacob deGrom, like you mentioned before. I think his numbers are just nuts this year. I think he's like wonderful. Is he like a 2 right now? Something extremely low. And you're getting him I got him at minus 165 early. I think it's 175 now, and I still would like it. Anything deGrom under minus 200 when he's going against a mediocre pitcher is something I'm going to take every single time, in my opinion, because I think deGrom is just that much better, even than the medium pitchers, even to the medium good pitchers. Now, if it's deGrom versus Kershaw, then maybe in the minus 150, 160 range, I would scratch my head a little bit, but not this situation. So those are my 2.
Okay, I want to throw in something on that Baltimore game too. Baltimore has really jumped the charts on those lefty splits, like you said. Baltimore is a team that you don't want to back against right-handers near as much as against left-handers. I believe in WOBA now, weighted on base average, they're first. They just passed up everybody against lefties and WOBA, and I mean that's really stands out to me as a big surprise. How could Baltimore be that good against left-handed pitching? Yarbrough splits, he's actually worse at home than he's been on the road in his career by a large margin. Aiken's also worse on the road. He has a smaller, sample size. So I think Aiken actually is a prospect that some people had some pretty high hopes for. You see the price of plus 160 on that. I think it's important for us to say here real quickly too. I sometimes get this question, why do you take a plus 160? And then in your write-up, you say, I realize that the chances are greater than 50% that they're going to lose. Well, I mean, we're taking plus 160. If you think the line should be plus 120, you take the plus 160. So that's kind of the point that we need to remember about moneyline sports. And I know you guys know this, just for the listeners and viewers out there, it's important to remember that somebody's record, wins and losses in baseball, does not tell the whole story. If they're constantly taking minus 170 or minus 180, their record better be good. I mean, it better be really damn good, or else they're going to be losing you money. And at the same time, somebody could be 500 and taking a lot of underdogs and could be really good at handicapping baseball. So I just wanted to make that point, not to go too far off on a tangent, but I think that baseball is so different from the other sports, the football, basketball, the spread sports. I think it's important for people to keep that in mind. John, is there a specific game that you want to talk about here in baseball?
Sure. I like the Boston Red Sox tonight. I think they're pretty darn cheap against Toronto. Toronto comes in, division rivalry. There are 2 games over 500, looking up at the Boston Red Sox, who are probably the Cinderella team of Major League Baseball right now. Garrett Richards is the better starter. Stripling is pitching for Toronto, and his stats, across the board are just not good. And add to that the Toronto bullpen has really, really been getting hammered of late. And the Boston pen right now has been one of the most consistent, maybe not the best in terms of FIP and the other metrics. But Boston, last 7 games, 2.35 ERA, 1.30 WHIP. 39 strikeouts. They do walk probably too many. That would be the only criticism I would have. But they're 4-0 as a unit in the last 7 games. So what that means is that the Red Sox aren't necessarily in the lead when the pen comes in. However, in this game, I think Richards will pitch far more innings than Stripling will. And a Boston pen right now that is that's the only concern I have about this game. You have Andrews isn't available tonight. Barnes probably might be, but doubtful. And you do have Brandon Brennan available. Hernandez, definitely not. Ottavino, not. So they're down to essentially no left-handers in the pen for this game tonight. And I think it was earlier this week I had a premium bet on St. Louis when they were playing Cleveland. Cleveland also was in the same situation going into the game with a depleted pen and no lefties. And as bad as St. Louis has been of late, they scored 8 runs and won that game pretty easily. So the only concern I have with Boston here is that if they have to go to the pen early, then my bet might be wrong. But I do think that Richards is going to do a good job tonight, and Boston will come away with the win. And I wanted to mention to you guys, too, the Yankees. I did some, I love to play with numbers. And they truly are an outlier right now with the batting. You look at their walk percentage, it's solid. Line drive percentage, solid. If it wasn't for Guerrero, we might be talking about Aaron Judge as the American League MVP. And they just don't score runs. And I've never been able to see in the last 25 years a team where it looks like they are just a bad offense. But I think it's the first time in history you have all 9 players regressing at the same time. So I'm studying this really carefully because I think there's going to be an opportunity. They have won 2 in a row, I believe now, but that doesn't make for a bottom. But there will be a time, I think, where the Yankees could go 17-3 or something ridiculous, and they all then progress at the same time, which is pretty scary. But I wanted to see what you guys thought of that, and if you had any insights on the Yankees' offense and why they're so horrible.
I'll go first here. I think that I've been pretty high on the Yankees, and I've been wrong so far. I've had a good baseball season in general. I still think the Yankees should make a run. I definitely agree with you. I actually don't think that betting the Yankees to win the AL East at the odds that they're at right now is a bad bet. There's still a lot of the season left. The Yankees did lose last night. Aroldis Chapman blew that save when it looked like they were going to win the game. So they have really been up and down. The offense, you look at the lineup, 1 through 9, and you wonder how could they have been this bad? There are so many good hitters on this offense. Guys like LeMahieu, who's been really consistent. Torres, a lot of those guys really underachieving what they should be. And even some of their batted ball percentages look like they've had some bad luck. So I agree with you, John. I do think the Yankees, I don't consider myself a big Yankees fan either. I don't like these big market teams usually. And I'm sure John's not a big Yankees fan. So this is not any kind of homer talk from us. I think the Yankees could be a valuable team. Now, you will have to be careful because the market still knows the Yankees are better than what they've played. So let's see how cheap they become. Do people finally throw in the towel or not? I don't know. We'll see. But I think the Yankees would be a team I'd rather bet on than against the rest of the way. Kiev, do you have any thoughts here?
I see the Yankees to win the AL. Is that what the question? I think that's what you guys said.
I said it win AL East, like just the divisional.
Just the divisional. Well, I see them plus 500 to win the AL, and I don't like that. And as far as plus 250 is what I see with the AL East, and not in love with that. Everyone's waiting for Boston to cool down. Well, they're still not cooling down. Everyone's saying their bullpen is pitching out of their minds. Well, they're hitting more than they're making up for it. And so I think that I like what you're thinking, though, John. Right now, that's one team that has underachieved in the Twins. What the hell happened to them? Could they come back? Because right now the market is down on them. That's one team that's interesting to me. I think the best value that I was thinking about, and I haven't made this bet yet, is the New York Mets to win the NLCS, right? So to win the National League, I think at plus 950 is what I'm seeing. You have New York Mets that has the best relief pitching, the best bullpen. They have some of the best starting pitchers, and that's what you're looking for. That's more predictable for playoffs than hitting itself, is how well the pitching's going to stand up. And you also have some really good hitters, and they had some bad injury bug. And I think that they're finally getting some guys healthy. And you're not going to get any better value than you are right now in the Mets, in my opinion, at plus 950. And to win their division, they're favored to win their division. So why are they plus 950 for the AL? I don't know.
That is crazy.
What book are you seeing plus 950 at?
I'm seeing it at Bet Online.
Okay, so that's a huge difference from FanDuel. I'm just kind of looking at some of the U.S. markets. Plus 500 on FanDuel. I assume you wouldn't like plus 500. I don't like plus 500. Plus 950, quite the difference from plus 9.
No, I'm sorry. It's plus 525. It was plus 950 in the World Series also, but I still like that because that's third. Because you still have the Padres at plus 425, and I think they're way overvalued. And then you have the Dodgers at plus 185. That won it last year. So, in my opinion, there's still some value in the Mets at plus 525, in my opinion.
Okay, and you would think that Lindor will start hitting, right? You know, Lindor has been a disappointment so far this year, and we know he's a better player than this. The Mets lineup has not been very good, but I assume they'll get better. So, yeah, I think those are some teams. Sounds like we're New York fans, the way we talk about the Yankees and the Mets here. I don't think that's the case for any of us, but we're trying to be objective here, you know. So we're trying to make money. We're not trying to talk about a team that we're fans of. So I don't really have.
Yeah, thank you, John, for reminding me to look at that. I was like, I want to look at the Mets. Well, you know, I like it at 525. I'm going to make a small play on them, and we'll take a look at the Yankees a little bit later. Hopefully, the Yankees can keep losing and give us a little more value.
I will say I'm surprised the Yankees are only plus 250 or plus 225 in some places to win the AL East. So they are still getting a lot of respect from the odds makers. We'll see, like I said, if the odds get even longer to where you maybe even have a better chance. I agree with you too, Kiev. The Twins have been terrible. They're a team that should have been far better. I don't know if they're just going to throw in the towel. I assume they'll trade a lot of guys, but they should be better than this. And I know the modeling crowd is surprised as well that the Twins have been this bad. So you guys ready? Let's switch over to NBA here to finish this off.
Sure.
All right, so let's talk a little bit NBA. John, I know you've been running hot here in the NBA lately. Always nice to be running well, especially at the end of the season when everybody's paying attention. What's your run here lately, John?
80%. I shake my head. You know me, I'm not very good at promoting myself. It is what it is, and playoffs just seem to be my niche. It just seems like a horseshoe appears, and I hold on to the horseshoe, and all of a sudden I start winning. But I'm seeing the board well, and I know you guys know what that means. Like there's streaks where you wake up and you look at the odds, and you're thinking, oh well, I like that team, but wait a minute, I really don't like that team anymore. As compared to the way I'm seeing it now, whereas I look at the board, okay, Hawks. Mm-hmm. Like there's no hesitation, and then my numbers and the machine learning projections support it, and off we go. So it's just one of those runs I'm really grateful for, and you guys have the same type of runs from time to time too. So it's just I'm more the dog this time than the fire hydrant. That's how I'd like to describe it, Yeah,
absolutely. Let's talk about one game specifically. I don't know if you have a premium selection in this game. If you do, you don't have to give it out here, certainly. But any thoughts here on the Suns and the Nuggets tonight? This is a really big game because the Nuggets have been embarrassed 2 times in a row. I will tell you, there are some really strong systems. I know John knows this. Really strong systems that really would like the Nuggets a lot in this game because they're down 2-0. They're desperate. They just were blown out. I'll read one in particular. A team that has lost their last game by 25 points, and they're in the NBA playoffs, and they have a season win percentage of 51% or higher, so it doesn't even have to be very good. 57-38, that's 60%. In the NBA playoffs, obviously, we don't have a huge sample size when we get this deep into the season, but you can see that a lot of these teams have covered by a big margin as well. I think this is a predicted one that going forward, you'd rather bet the team that's down, that just got blown out. At the same time, I've watched a decent amount of those first couple games. I don't know that the Nuggets match up that well against the Suns. I mean, it's kind of one where the system suggests something, the eye test makes you a little bit worried about that one. I ended up passing on this game. You have any thoughts, John?
Yeah, I do. I actually I do an angle of the day for the Wager Talk NBA tip-off show. I am not on it, but they use it, and they nice enough to reference my name, so I can show it to you too. And I will tell you this: I had my top-rated play of the NBA was the under in Game 1. So, I couldn't help but to feel good after 94 points were scored in the first half. But then as I watched the game evolve and the way that fourth quarter was going, it suddenly hit me with about 5 minutes to go that, my God, I actually could lose this bet. And Phoenix never took even though it was the bench guys, they never took their foot off the pedal. And it got to the point where it was more than just, the potential of losing the under bet. Then, Phoenix goes going over the line. And now Denver has even more motivation to come back and smoke them and return the favor. But this is along the lines of what you just said. You're going to bet on home favorites in Game 3 of the NBA playoffs. And our home favorite lost the first 2 games of the series. 37-17 against the number for 69% last 25 playoff seasons. In round 1, it's 13-6. Round 2, 13-7-1. Round 3, even better, 9-2 for 82%. And then round 4, you just don't play it because it's 2-2-1 and 50%. But that tells you to take the Denver Nuggets. And I think if the money line is still minus 120 and not higher, you bet the money line.
Yeah, if I was betting this game, the only side I could bet would be Denver. I can't bet Phoenix after they come off 2 great performances. Nobody wants to bet Denver in this spot. The public certainly doesn't want anything to do with them. Kiev, are you a Suns fan being out there in Arizona?
Since day one, baby.
There you go. There you go.
I will always retain my Bulls fandom growing up in the Chicagoland area with Michael Jordan. And then when I lived on the border in Wisconsin for so long, what is the greatest NBA era, of course, in my life. And it was just amazing to watch. It was. I've been to the United Center many times, been to a few of the actual playoff games and championship games too. So I was fortunate. And ever since Jordan left, it's been hard to grasp the NBA, and they changed some rules that I didn't like. But as a bettor, I can give you what I think. I'm not a premium guy for NBA, so I don't give out any premium plays to the NBA. I'm not as good, and I don't pay attention to it during the regular season. But what you said about Denver makes all the sense in the world, because when a team's down like this, they don't want to get shut out, and they're at home and they feel desperate. They're against the wall. The Suns can relax a little bit. This feels a lot like the Bucks game when they just played the Brooklyn Nets, and you could tell the Nets were better, but they just wouldn't win that game. There's shots they just weren't putting down, So this feels like the spot, and John's numbers really backed it up. I'm going to make a bet on them. Of course, I'm probably going to root for the Suns just being down here and, happy that they took out the Lakers. I got to give them some credit for that. So I root for them, but I'll make a money line play on the Suns probably. It is at minus 122 right now from what I'm looking at. I definitely agree with that.
Yeah. You said Suns. I think you meant money line play.
Yeah, the Nuggets. I'm sorry, the money line play in the Nuggets.
Yeah, I'm going to bet this small personally as well, just so I have some rooting interest. This won't be a premium play for me or anything, but my son likes to watch some of these playoff games with me, and we'll see. I assume this is the late game tonight, so we'll see if he's allowed to watch much of this game or not. But the Hawks do. John, do you have anything? John is our 76ers fan here.
Well, I'll tell you,
about 76ers Hawks.
I've been talking about the Sixers since the playoffs started with so many people you wouldn't even believe it. And the Philly media, and I'll say much to their credit, they really know how to beat up a guy for no good apparent reason, and that guy is Ben Simmons. And I run that sentiment in Twitter. It's a Python app I created that takes a hashtag of a team and then assesses the betting community's negative, positive, neutral view. And I've been running it. It'll be 9 months now in all the sports, and this was by far, the most negative sentiment reading of any professional team that I've been running. It all centered on Simmons. And what I think the media's right. He was 0 for 6 in the one game against the Wizards. Terrible free throw shooting.
Yeah.
Longer term, it'll come around. Magic Johnson couldn't hit the side of a barn door when he started either. However, the guy had 15 assists, 15 rebounds, became the 5th player in NBA playoff history to do that. So what did I do that night? I took pizza money and I tweeted it, just for the proof and the transparency. And I said, you know what? Because of the sentiment being so bad, I wouldn't doubt it if Simmons would have a triple-double. And he did. And I think we're getting close again to possibly pulling the trigger on that tonight. I am a little concerned. I don't have a play on either team. Atlanta kind of scares me. Just with you take Ben Simmons out of the game for him to guard Trae Young, and then it becomes more of an even matchup because you eliminate Trae Young just going off and putting up 45, out of nowhere. But Simmons did a great job, I thought, in Game 2, in minimizing him. I think he only scored 9 points when Simmons was guarding him of the 21. And, Matisse Thybulle, another guy for everyone to watch tonight, he actually got votes in the Defensive Player of the Year, and he's a bench player. And if you extend his stats out to, per 100% possessions, he actually has better defensive stats than Ben Simmons does, who came in 2nd in the Defensive Player of the Year voting. So I wouldn't be surprised. They did it once in the Wizards series with Thybulle and Simmons starting. And I wouldn't be surprised if they do it tonight on the road, which would be the perfect place to do it. So it's just going to be a great game. But I did bet the Sixers for the series at minus 112, which I thought was just ridiculous after game 1.
Yeah.
It was 220 before the series started and higher. And one game.
I bet
you
at
throw the
minus
baby
130, John. I bet at minus 130. Look at you, dude.
Well, I guess I was looking at the right time. I guess it's what happens when you're on a hot streak. Things just come your way. But
I feel like I missed out, guys. I didn't bet this at all. So yeah.
Well, if they lose tonight, you'd probably have another chance easily.
If they lose tonight, I'm probably going to get a better price than that.
Yep, you probably will. You might even get plus money.
Yeah,
which is
it'll
insane.
Be interesting. The 76ers are clearly the better team here. Stranger things have happened than them losing this series, but I like that value play, certainly. I guess we'll just touch on real briefly the other series. The Nets-Bucks game,
Sure.
Kiev mentioned it last night. I didn't really get to see much of that game. Had family over and didn't really get to watch too much. But I have to say, it was 86-83 or something? I thought that was probably the score just a little after halftime in a game.
With 5 seconds left, it was a 1-point game. And was it Durant that took that in to miss that left-handed layup? It was him, or
I think it was Bruce Brown.
Brown.
They were surprised that he
was a really
ugly
shot because I thought he had to look at the rim, and then it just kind of bounced off really bad. And obviously, the Bucks got the rebound. That was a great ending to watch. But real interesting how the Nets are favored here. I agree with it. I don't know, whatever you guys think. I agree with them being a favorite. I don't know if I would bet it at minus 1.5. I might even bet a money line or just kind of see what the public's going to do. But that's not till Sunday. So
yeah. I couldn't bet the Bucks. I think the Bucks are pretty overmatched here, even without James Harden playing. And I assume he's still going to be out the next game. The Nets are clearly the better team. What were they down, like 20 points or something yesterday? And then they took the lead.
22.
And really had a good chance to win that game. Let's be honest. The Bucks were fortunate to win the game after they started out that well. I don't have very high hopes for the Bucks even keeping this series going that long. So yeah, I certainly lean to the Nets in that one. And then Clippers Jazz. John, have you bet anything in those first couple games, Clippers Jazz?
I had what did I have? One of the games I had a total, and I honestly cannot remember. I think it was under.
Okay.
In game 1, which I think lost actually.
I was gonna say I think it was either a push or a loss by like half a point. So that was really close.
That's right. You know what? I did not have a play on that game, and I had actually had no play on either game in this series. I'm thinking of the series before against Dallas.
I'll,
I apologize for being brain dead here, but
no, there's been a lot of games going on. I'll give myself a quick. I had the Jazz -3.5 in the first game, and the Jazz then were up by 8 with a minute left, and then won by 3, and that was a tough one. I've lost several by the hook here lately in the NBA. It's the way it goes, but then the Jazz take a big lead last night, blow the lead completely. Checking on my phone, I see the Clippers ahead, and then all at once the Jazz go ahead and win and cover. So strange series. I do think the Clippers still have a chance in that series. It's kind of unlike the Bucks and Nets, which is 2-1. I think the Clippers still have a shot. I haven't figured out what the Clippers' issue is. On paper, they should be better than this. I think their defense has been disappointing. To have as many guys that should be good individual defenders as what they do, and to be as bad on defense as they are, I don't really know what the problem is. I know they got rid of Doc Rivers. Not sure if it was an upgrade to Ty Lue or not. I think a lot of people think it probably wasn't. I don't know. The Clippers should be better than this. And, they have a great chance, guys. I mean, the Clippers have an opening with the Lakers being out of it. This is a great shot for them, and it feels like they're going to kind of hand away that chance. I don't know. Do you guys have any thoughts on that series?
well, I can tell you this with Doc Rivers: if it wasn't for some of his strategic moves in game, they would be down 0-2 with Atlanta. He made the right moves in the beginning of the third quarter, and it led to a big run, and that was bench players. And that really set the stage for the Sixers to win that game. So I agree with you. With all due respect to the current Clippers coach, I think the Clippers made a horrible mistake. Not because he's in the Philadelphia area where I live, but I've seen firsthand that the guy is one of the elite game managers out there, and better than I've seen in this area in a long, long time. So I almost want to see. I always cheer for that underdog, the guy that got bashed. Like even Bryson DeChambeau now is with Brooks Koepka. I almost want to cheer for Bryson because he's the guy getting beat up, and Doc Rivers took a beating in L.A. with the media and the fans, and now he's in a different fan base. Granted, they can be pretty ugly too. But it would be kind of neat for him to play the Clippers in the final if that was ever possible and win. But we're a long way off from there. And the only thing I did think was realistic was Leonard said in the press that, hey, we've been here before. This is like we expect this, and we're going to deal with it, and we're going to come out of it a winner. And that's coming out of a guy that doesn't say much.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, I think it's a fair point from him, but also the Jazz are better than the Mavericks. So Doncic is great, but they don't have the depth. Porzingis was a problem. He wasn't playing well at all.
Yeah, he was.
The Jazz, pretty good team. I think they have quite a few guys who are solid, and now they haven't won a lot in the playoffs. So the Clippers still have a chance, but they're up against it at this point. They have to win that next game. So, guys, I think it's been great to chat here. Good to get back together again for Better Odds Sports Betting. We'll be doing this again some more coming up. I assume there's going to be some more talk about football as we get, guys. It's mid-June. We're going to have, before it'll be July and then August, and we'll have some more college and NFL to talk about as we get. I'm excited about that. I know you guys are as well. So we'll look forward to that. John, where can everybody find your great information?
Well, you can find me over at sportsmemo.com and on Twitter, just like the green tag says there, at John Ryan Sports 1, and a lot of content every day, just like you guys put out, and come over and check it out.
Yeah.
So I want to give a shout out to Glenn again. So thanks for hollering at us, Glenn. Always been a longtime follower of us. Really appreciate Glenn. Nick as well. Nick's a great handicapper on our site. And Luke, thank you for the compliment of the hat. It's very creative. I saw it laying around. And I was like, man, I got to wear this hat again. It's from Wisconsin. If you Google it, maybe you'll find it. Don't want to give it away right now, but I really appreciate you chiming in on the show. Everyone, check us out at theoddsbreakers.com.
All right, everybody. So you can check out my work at huntersportspicks.com. You can sign up for the free picks newsletter there. If you don't sign up for premiums, that's fine. Free picks newsletter. Check out the Odds Breakers. Check out John's work, Sports Memo, Wager Talk. He has videos there as well you can check out. We'll have a lot of stuff coming up here on Better Odds Sports Betting, but everybody have a great weekend, and we'll see you back next time.